Hey, it's Brian Willie with Local Client Takeover, and I want to welcome you to the Google My Business or Google Maps ranking. Who knows what it'll be called tomorrow? So, covering my bases here, I have no idea. This could change as far as the name, so we'll stick with what it's called now, Google My Business. So, in our main course, I go over lots and lots of maps ranking techniques that a lot of people just don't bother to do. So most people's idea of maps is you set up a listing, you kind of optimize it a little bit, and then you just hammer it with citations, and then people wonder why they don't rank in competitive markets. So in our main course, I've obviously gone over that, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of that. Feel free to use that as reference, but I'm going to give you a real quick background before we dive into really the stuff that I would consider to be super ninja stuff, super ninja tactics that almost nobody does, but that can really skyrocket your way onto maps pretty quickly. And this is stuff that I didn't really cover in the main course because it just wasn't necessary. It's not stuff you have to do, but it is stuff that I recommend you do, especially as you get into more competitive areas or more competitive niches. This stuff really helps tremendously. So in the main course, obviously I talk about how citations are not everything, and I talk about the proper way to set up a listing where you are choosing your categories properly, you're setting up your description properly with not repeating really the city and not repeating your main categories, but using LSI keywords or other keywords you're trying to rank for. Surrounding cities, other counties, things like that in the description without overdoing it. Doing things like linking out to some authority sources like your Facebook page or a Twitter feed or something like that. I talk about the need to set up many photos that are tagged in the right way, where you go into the properties section of the photo and you actually put in the keywords, and you put in the website and the address, the NAP, the name, address, phone number of the business inside of the properties. And so those things alone a lot of times really help you rank when you combine that with some on-site factors that we talk about in the other course, like having schema marked up addresses on your site, like having a badge that leads directly back to your Google My Business page. I guess it's really a Google Plus page, but even Google Plus sounds like it's going away. So having that and having your map embedded on your site, having your URLs match your categories. I talk about all that stuff in that course. All that's still important. So don't discount that. Make sure that you continue to do those sorts of things. I also talk about how it's really good to just have a branded homepage. So really just the brand name of the business plus a phone number. Or if they're literally are just in one physical location, sometimes a phone number and the zip code. So it could be, let me just make something up out of the blue here. Maybe it's, Dewey, Cheatham and Howe law firm. That I'm talking about title tags here. So maybe the title tag is just Dewey, Cheatham and Howe, and followed by 818-957-0000 phone number, and then maybe a zip code or something like that. Now I get a little wary of zip codes sometimes because I don't want Google locking you down to one zip code. Now if it truly is a one zip code, one city situation where they really truly have a physical office in just one city in one location, and there's really one zip code, I would probably go for that. My inclination is to say it's probably better just to keep the phone, the main phone number in there, keep the main zip code in the schema marked up NAP, name, address, and phone number. And just in the title tag on the homepage have brand plus, kind of maybe a main keyword and a a phone number, or even just brand and phone number, and then keep your keywords for your inner pages. And then you'd have category pages or category URLs that would match the page. So just to give you an example, let's say they're a criminal lawyer, and the category is criminal lawyer, for instance, in Google My Business. You would have a page that would be Dewey Cheatham and Howe / criminal lawyer. And everything would match there. You'd have a photo on that page that matches that from your Google My Business listing. So if you had for instance, a tagged photo where the keyword was criminal lawyer because it's matching the category. And I teach all that in the other course. You want to match your photos to your categories. You would load that particular photo up on that exact page, your criminal lawyer page. So that's just a real quick overview of what that course was about. That course brings a lot of people a long ways to getting rankings. What I want to talk about are the things that really nobody does, or I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people do. And it's really easy stuff. It's stuff that, most people don't think of, but if you go out and you go that little, extra mile, this is how you get the big city rankings, right? So I've got some massive city rankings on maps for a variety of different businesses, mostly lawyers. I also work with addiction treatment centers, but we're talking highly competitive markets, like personal injury attorneys, addiction centers in massive cities, right? So Los Angeles, Orange County, California. I mean, Los Angeles has 8 million people. Orange County has 3 million people. And oftentimes I end up with the number 1 or number 2 spot on maps. And why do I do that? Well, it's because I take these extra measures that I'm going to teach you right now. So let's dive into them. So let's talk about citations on non-obvious sources. So I'm going to assume you're familiar with what a citation is. It's typically just a name, address, and phone number that's going to match your Google My Business listing. It's going to match what's on your website. And when I say non-obvious sources, there's all sorts of citation packages that you can order out there. Some of them good, some of them terrible. But the point is that the vast majority of those citation programs go out and order the stuff that everybody else does. So what they're doing is, and that's very necessary too, by the way. So you don't want to skip that part. You still want your citations on the big major sources, the Yelps of the world, the super pages. I could go on and on. There's hundreds of regular citation sources that are important. Foursquare. There's a list of so many of these things. I'm not going to get into all of them, but those are still important. I would still order a citation package that creates a number of regular citations. But when I say non-obvious sources, let's get into that. I'm talking about things like city level sources, for instance. Let's talk about that. City and niche types of citations. So there are directories and business directories and things like that you can get a citation on that are really all about the city, all about the niche that you're in. Those sorts of things right away will help propel your listing. So I talked, I think, a little bit about that in the course, but I just wanted to re-mention it here, that don't forget that. And that's something that you can actually go order. Services like, I think, Citations Ninja, White Spark is a good one too, will go out and actually, for a fee, create these sorts of city level and niche specific citation sources. So get as many of those as you can. In fact, get more of them than the regular citations. Those are the things that are really going to help you, because again, it's all about relevance and trust in order to get Google to want to display your listing above everybody else's. And let's face it, there are fewer and fewer listings available to be displayed. If you've been watching Google Maps at all over the last several months, we've gone from a very distinct 7-pack where they would show 7 listings pretty much on desktop and mobile, to now where on desktop it's typically a 7-pack, though not always. On mobile, it's almost always a 3-pack, essentially. It's a carousel type of situation where it's a rotating 3-pack where only 3 listings are showing up, and then you have to swipe your phone or your smart, whatever smart device you have, to see the next 3 in order. And now they've even gotten to the point where sometimes they're only showing a 1-pack on mobile and sometimes a 1-pack on desktop. So the point is, and the thing to keep in mind is that Google is always going to be shaking up maps. My theory is that it eats into their revenue with AdWords. So they're always trying to figure out how to still show it, because they understand that their visitors really want to see maps listings. They're there a lot of times to read reviews, to get directions, that sort of thing. And so Google wants to also entice them to click on ads. So how do they do that? Well, if they have 7 of these things in a 7-pack, it's going to distract from the ads. And so they're starting to shrink that. So it's a balance of giving their user experience what they want, or giving the users what they want, versus keeping their shareholders happy. So in order to keep up, what you need to do is really outdo your competition. I like to actually go so far as to use WhiteSpark on a monthly membership, where I can download who's in the top spot, who's at number 1, who's at number 2, and I can download all their citations, and then I'll outsource those and go get those built. So what I would recommend is you get a very trusted source of somebody who can go build citations for you. WhiteSpark will actually, I believe, just go and build them. They have a service where you just order, you can order packs of city or niche citations, but I believe you can also just download your competitor's stuff and let them know that you want citations built on that site. I think you have to do it through a custom order form or just through the comment section when you submit the order. But if they don't do that every time, then what I would do is get a trusted citation builder. Hire somebody on Elance who's done this, and interview them, by the way. Make sure that they keep the name, address, and phone number consistent. So I've used people on Elance before that seem good in the past. And what they're doing a lot of times is, even though they're very cheap, they're outsourcing it to somebody who's even cheaper, who's not necessarily checking the work. So you have to be very careful. What I would do is do it in batches and find somebody you can test and trust, to where that citation, that name, address, and phone number from your Google Live listing is exact when they go out and they build these citations on non-obvious sources. Or when you download a WhiteSpark file that has every citation that your competitor is currently on. So you want to do a combination of those things, because what you're going to discover is that a lot of your competition many times have these citation sources that nobody would ever think of. And I discovered this by accident probably 5 or 6 years ago with WhiteSpark, when I downloaded a competitor file and I went, wow, none of my stuff is here. Why am I not showing up? Well, that was why, because my competition at that point had outdone me. They were going out and thinking of non-obvious sources to get citations on. And so I started, kind of figuring this out, reverse engineering what they had done, and gone out and hired somebody good who could build great citation sources on exactly where my competition's at. So step 1, I would get citations on all the sources that the top 1 or 2 people have, and then get regular citations built to the Yelps of the world and the super pages and all that. And then take it a step further and go out and get city and niche specific citations, as many as it takes, until you get to the top. Now, again, citations are not everything. And we're going to talk about the blended algorithm in a minute, but citations are a critical component to this day of maps rankings. And what most people miss are these non-obvious sources. They miss the fact that their competition has gone out and built citations on things like local news websites, where a lot of people don't even realize you can get a citation. But it's true. In a lot of cities, there are local news websites, local TV websites, where they actually have a business directory. Add your business directory for free. Now, I don't recommend that you go build these things on your own. Building citations are tedious as hell. But you can really find somebody pretty inexpensively. Like I said on Elance, just make sure they're good. Make sure they do a good job. Feed them small amounts of citations. Check their work, and then unleash everything on them once you know they're doing good work. Use sources like Citation Ninja, Whitespark, where you know they're going to build high quality citations, but you also know that they have as a choice building city and niche specific citations. So enough about that, but let me talk about some other non-obvious sources of citations that people miss. And these are what I would call your own citation sources. So these are things like, we're gonna talk a lot in this coaching series about FCS Networker and building Web 2.0s and building up the authority of Web 2.0s. But what people miss is that you can really knock it out of the park by having, going to FCS Networker, for instance, and building out a city network. So when I say network, maybe you're building out 20 or 30 or 40 Web 2.0s, and you're drip feeding it content through RSS, aggregated content, or what, there's multiple choices in FCS Networker of how you can actually get content onto those blogs hands-free without doing a thing. And then what you do is you swoop in sort of at the end and you drop some good high quality articles in there about the city, about the niche. And you just so happen to do a branded link or a URL link, out to your site. And in addition, what's to stop you from putting the name, address, and phone number on there, right? So people don't think about this stuff. PBNs, same thing. PBNs are already if you get a good PBN, it's a site that already has authority to it. It's got a history of having high quality backlinks. And if you do it right and you get a niched theme PBN, that used to be about the whatever niche you're now currently in, I do this all the time. I will diversify my article. So, there's a lot of people out there that would say, link out to your website 3 different times or 2 different times. That's just not natural. But what is natural is linking out multiple times to different sources within your article, one of which could be your money site, one of which could be directly to a Google My Business page, one of which could be dropping in your citation, your name, address, and phone number in that on that PBN. Another citation source that's not totally obvious that a lot of people don't talk about are press releases. A lot of times you can put an address in a press release. And if, there are times when you cannot, but when you can, I would try to squeeze that in there because these are going on high authoritative sites. And now your citation is out there. So keep in mind all these different techniques, try them out. And you're going to see that just crushes it big time, especially when you have, I like to use city pages more than niche pages. Let's put it that way, where I have city level articles. When I say that, I mean, I go out and I have an article that's written about, let's say it's Orange County, California. And I'm putting a link within that city. I'm putting my citation source within that city because it's sending a message to Google that it's as though it's a city directory, and it's coming from a higher authoritative trusted source because it's either from my PBN that I've already pre-screened and I know that it's a great PBN, or it's going on my Web 2.0 that I had FCS Networker build, and I'm putting high quality RSS aggregated content on there, and then my own city level articles. So that's very important to keep in mind. So let's move on to map embeds. Map embeds are very important, but nobody does it. So Google allows you to go and onto Google Maps and grab, basically it's an iframe of a map of the actual location where the business is located. So you search for the business. So I'm assuming the business has already been listed, verified, the address is correct. So don't do this until that happens. Once it is, you go onto Google Maps, and I'll do a little demonstration video of this too, of how to add citation sources to Web 2.0's, map embeds, things like that. But Google allows you to embed your map. So you can embed it on your website. I already teach that in the main course. But the other thing you can do, you got to remember the data inside of Google Maps, inside of an embedded map, resides inside that embed, which is linking back to, your location that you're trying to get ranked on maps. So why not embed your map in a Web 2.0? And I think Mark's going to talk about this. I think he's even done some map embedding in press releases, where as an image, you're able to actually send out a map, and you can do some manipulation of the properties. And I think there's even ways to embed actual maps into press releases. I think Mark's going to be getting into that. I have not tried that particular technique, but I all the time embed maps on Web 2.0s, PBNs, just to get it out there. So again, that's another technique almost nobody uses, but you grab the map code from Google Maps and just embed that iframe onto your Web 2.0 or PBN, and it's just more authority. Again, these maps listings talk back and forth to the website or the citation source, and in this case, it's a Web 2.0 or PBN, for instance, where that becomes the authority. That's what's talking back and forth now. And only now, instead of having just a citation, it's got your actual map that's embedded on there. So it's a different way of creating trust. Longitude, latitude on the site. This is something I did not cover in the course. This is something that can really crush it for you as well. There's a site, I believe it's called iTouch Maps. I will drop the link to it in this section so that you can take a look at it. And I think I do cover iTouch Maps a little bit in the main course on getting, where to get longitude, latitude for photos mostly, I believe. But what I'm talking about here is that actually, inside of the footer, next to or below your schema marked up data for your address, grab your longitude and latitude and drop that below it, site-wide in your footer. Now, only if that's a single location, because that's going to throw you off if you have multiple locations. You don't want something in your footer, because your footer is a global component of your site that's going to be seen as Google as, this is the location. So if you're working with a business that has multiple locations, don't, use it on a page, not on the actual footer. But the point is weave it in somehow. Usually I'll do it at the bottom of my copy if it's on a page. We're located at, and I'll put my name, address, and phone number if there is one, or even if it's just a city, for instance, and we'll dive into that a little bit. If it's just a city that I have, because I don't have a physical location, I'll just put the schema marked up data for the city, sometimes along with a phone number. And again, we'll talk about that when we get to the wide service areas rankings in just a minute. I'll drop that on the page, and just beneath it, I'll put the longitude and latitude. And guess what? If you put it at the bottom of your copy, nobody's really paying attention to that, but Google is. That reinforces the location of that particular page. So if you're trying to rank multiple pages in different cities for your client, that's going to reinforce that. And if you have a single location, that's going to reinforce that as well. By putting it in the footer, it's going to again talk back and forth to your main Google Maps listing and show that all this longitude and latitude matches, the address exactly matches, the phone number matches. That's what it's really all about, is getting that match exact. But people stop short by just doing a citation. This is something that most people are not doing, adding longitude, latitude directly onto the site. adding a map embed, on a third-party location like a PBN or Web 2.0. So keep all this in mind. Next, we're going to talk about Picasa, Google Earth to geotag every photo, not only in your actual listing, but on your site. So in the main course, I talk about it's a good practice for your cover photo for your Google Plus page, really kind of your Google My Business page. Google's made this very confusing since the beginning, which is why I believe Google Plus is going away. Nobody understood what the hell it was about. It didn't function nicely like Facebook does. And so in the main course, there's this main Google Plus page that houses your business listing. And I talked about it's very helpful to geotag your photo, your cover photo on that page using a program called Picasa that incorporates with Google Earth. And it's basically allowing you to import a photo, go out onto Google Earth, find the exact location, and Google finds the coordinates of it and will embed that into your photo. And so what I'm recommending here is that you do that for every photo. Make it part of your process. Go out, and if you have 10 different photos, here's what you're going to do. You're going to use those 10 photos on not only on your maps listing, but you're going to use them on the appropriate page of your site. So remember the category component of it that we talked about, where you want to match a photo to a category. If you only have 3 categories available, then only 3 of your photos will be categories, and the rest of them will be other links to other pages on your site. And when I say linked, I don't mean backlinked. I mean linked thematically. So if you've got a page, you've got 3 categories, and you've got three photos that are exactly named that category plus city. And then you've got 7 more different service areas that or not service areas. Let's call it, I'm going to keep that separate because I'm going to be using the word service area to really mean something a little different. When I say, let's say practice areas, or, what is it that the business does? They have 7 other things that they do. We we repair air conditioning equipment. We replace air conditioning equipment. We do new heating ducts. We do whatever. You're creating a page about that, but there's no category available. Well, you can still create the page about that and create a photo about that where the keyword inside of the photo directly ties to the page that you're using it on. And by the way, it's uploaded to Maps. So hopefully that makes sense. But what I'm getting at here is doing something a little bit different, where instead of just tagging each photo like we talked about in the main course, geotag each photo. Go even further than that. So go to Picasa and upload each photo, get it geotagged to the proper location, download that photo, then go manipulate that photo in terms of adding your address and your keywords and the other things we talked about. So you're taking it one step further and you're having it geotagged completely in a way that, by the way, Google is saying do this, right? It's Google Earth. They're actually giving you a way to embed location information. So why would they do that? Well, it's because they think it's important, right? And if they think it's important, they're going to reward you for it. So most people don't take this extra step. I highly encourage you to geotag every single photo, then upload it to your listing and also onto your site, and match the place on the site to the category, if it's a category inside of Google Maps, and if it's not, put it on the appropriate spot on your site for a different practice area, or different, whatever it is that they do, put it on the appropriate page. Let's hop in really quickly to city articles, directories with NAP, geotag photos, map embeds. We covered this a little bit. We touched on it with Web 2.0s and what we talked about above. But so in addition to obviously having your photo on your main website and on your maps listing, I like to embed these photos into city level articles that I have on Web 2.0s, PBNs, things like that. Also, I like to get my photos onto the directory sites with not only my NAP, but what are really kind of referred to as enhanced data sites, or trying to think of the word that they use, but they're essentially citation sources that allow, it's rich media is really what they're called. Rich media citation sources, where in addition to just your name, address, and phone number, they allow you to upload multiple photos. So here's your opportunity to upload geotagged photos. If you can do it, do a map embed. Not all sites are going to let you do that. But you can also, again, going back to our citations from non-obvious sources or your own sources, create your own city articles, directories, types of listings, where you add the NAP, you add your geotagged photo and your map embed. So we've kind of covered that a little bit, but just keep in mind, the more specific you are with city articles, the better. That's the key right there, is that you're giving a geo-specific signal from a city article using city level information, the NAP, city level information, the geotag photo, city level information, the map embed. All these things together play off of each other, and will give you a distinct advantage. Let's talk about the blended algorithm. So again, we started off this video talking about how most people would think that getting ranked on maps is all about kind of optimizing your listing and getting some citations. And that was true when it was Google Places years ago. It used to only be about citations, period. That's it. End of story. Then Google started to blend the algorithm, meaning that they started to look at how your on-site data was set up, how your tags were set up, all that stuff, and also the quality of links. And that's really never ended. It's never really gone back to a citation only ranking method, with limited exception. Occasionally you'll still see that, where really super non-competitive terms, you can get the job done with just citations. And even if your site's newer and you don't have much authority, you can do that. When you're starting to get in the very big cities and the big niches like I talked about, that's not going to work. You have to increase the overall authority of your site, and you do that in a number of ways. A lot of it has to do with to this day the size of the site, which sounds funny because I know you can literally get pages ranked a lot of times, or sites ranked that have not much content. But I will say that the overall authority and size of your site do matter. And also tying into the authority of your site is how you set up the site from a siloing perspective. And we're going to get into siloing and all that other stuff. How you tag the site. The on-site data that we talked about by having, the schema marked up data. Again, that's sending signals to Google that you're an authoritative real site in the city. But it's also about the quality of links. It's also about your organic positioning. Now, I talk a little bit about this in the other course. This is very important to remember. So don't be discouraged when you've done all the things that we've talked about above and you're in a very competitive city, but your site's still not showing up on maps. What's probably happening is you need to get closer to page one. And the way that you do that is by increasing the authority of your site, the quality of your backlinks. And we'll talk all about quality of backlinks and and the placement of those backlinks. Are they inside of good quality content or garbage spun content? Are they inside of content that makes sense, like city articles? Or very niche specific articles where there is, the theme of what you're doing matches. So is it on a PBN site that has, 15 different articles all about something completely different than each other? Or is it on say it's a lawyer PBN, a former lawyer PBN website with all law articles, all high quality articles? linking to your site. So I'm not going to get too deep into the organic side. Mark's going to be covering most of that, but just know that that factors into what you do. That if you see gaps in your ability to get on maps, or in your ability to get into, say, a 3-pack when only a 3-pack is available. Maybe you're in position 6 and you're showing up on a desktop, but on a mobile device where it really matters now, you're not there. Well, the key is going to be the blended algorithm, getting your organic stuff right, getting your on-site stuff done correctly, your tagging done correctly, getting your links done correctly so that they're high quality, so that this blended algorithm sort of picks up your site and matches it with and sort of combines it with your Google My Business listing, and boom, you're in the 3-pack, or you're number 1 in the 3-pack. That's critical to understanding that your organic, what you do organically dramatically affects your ability to be on maps. The authority of your site, the quality of your links dramatically affects your ability to play in that arena where it's very competitive. A couple more things I want to talk about, and then we'll finish up this module. Linking directly to your Google My Business page. Here's something that you need to keep in mind, and we'll talk about this a little bit with parasites. And really, Google My Business is just another parasite, like a Yelp page or a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page. These things have high domain authority, right? Google My Business has the domain authority is 100. What that means is you could send, if you could, and I don't recommend that you do, you could send spam, GSA spam, whatever, directly to your Google My Business page. I wouldn't do that because it's probably not future proof. A better approach is to use a network of Web 2.0s, PBNs, or higher quality link sources. And the cool thing is you can then hammer these things with exact match and partial match anchors. So if you're trying to rank for addiction treatment Phoenix, for instance, you could continually hammer the crap out of your Google My Business page with variations of that term, variations of that term, LSIs of that term, to try to get ranked for multiple keywords. And this is critical, guys. One of the ways that I get asked this all the time, how do you rank for dozens or even hundreds of keywords on maps? Well, keywords are important. You need to start sending keywords through your Google My Business page. That's a tier 1 page, and everything behind that is tier 2, tier 3. And what you can do, because it's such a high domain authority, is you can hammer this thing with lots and lots of exact and partial match anchors that will get you or help get you lots and lots of maps rankings. The other thing too to remember is you can do the same with your site. You have to have some buffer with your site in the sense that you have a Web 2.0 that's just a branded link, or it's just a URL link, and that's your tier 1 link pointing to your money site. But behind that, maybe you have GSA going directly over and over and over again to those Web 2.0s with 100 different keywords loaded in, and just hammering the crap out of it with all these different keywords. You can do that. If you want to be really ultra safe, then you build a second tier, which could be another set of Web 2.0s that link to your first set. And by the way, FCS Networker makes that very easy, where you can build 2 tiers of Web 2.0s. So tier 1 would point to your money site with branded and URL. Tier 2 would point to tier 1, and essentially it could be branded or URL or some keywords plus brand, things like that if you want to be really safe. And then tier 3 is hammer it with GSA types of stuff. And we'll probably do a separate little bonus training on GSA. I use GSA directly. I don't proclaim to be very good at it. You don't have to be, but there's a huge learning curve. I've gotten to the point where I just give that to a VA, or I outsource it a lot of times to a service that might cost me $25 or $30, where they will hammer the crap out of your tier 2 stuff that links directly to your Google My Business page or to your money site with all these exact match and partial match anchors. And what that's doing is it's giving you a buffer. It's passing through all those keywords to these more authoritative sites that just have brand links and URL links, all the way up to either your money site or your Google My Business page in this case. So keep that in mind. Ask me questions if you have any questions about that. Please do reach out and ask. You don't ever want to send spam directly to your money site. You could send spam to your Google My Business page. I don't recommend it. The domain authority is high enough where it can handle it. But because of the fact that Google My Business is a blended algorithm, and it is also taking into consideration your site, and your site URL resides on that Google My Business page, you want to be a little careful with just hammering it with spam. The better approach is Web 2.0s with branded and URL links, a second layer or tier 2 of another set of Web 2.0s pointing to tier 1 of Web 2.0s, and then tier 3 is GSA. Hammer it with all your exact match anchors. That can help you rank for lots of keywords. Okay, now finally I want to cover a technique that's actually untested, but it's something that I came up with in a strategy session where I was posed a question, and what this person wanted to do was essentially rank for multiple cities with only having one address, or even no address. So it might be a service type of business, for instance, and maybe you want to, the service business is willing to serve a radius of 50 miles. So let me just give you that example. Well, how in the world would you get ranked on maps for multiple cities without having an address in multiple cities? Well, we started talking about it, and the approach I came up with, again, has not been tested, but logically it makes sense that it would or could work. So this is something you want to test. But what you would do is you would set up a maps page where you tick the option that says you see clients at their location, which means you have you're a service business. You don't have a physical address. It's going to ask you for an address still, where you would put in a home address or whatever, but it's going to hide that address. Okay, so that's step one. Then you get, your listing is complete, and here's what I recommended. This is what I would do in order to get this to work. And again, remember, this is untested, so I'm not 100% sure it'll work, but I believe it'll work in a lot of cases. You would then go and set up city level pages for each city on your website. And again, let's say it's a 50-mile radius and there's 20 cities in that 50-mile radius. So you'd have 20 different internal pages. We use the example of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. It would be Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe / service areas / city, right? So just to give you an idea of how I would like to typically would do this, is I would set up a service area page that would have every city listed on there, just the city. And, we say something like, we proudly service the following cities, and you can organize them by counties or whatever you want to do. And that city is or that service area that has that list of cities, each city will link over to the city page that you've created. And it'll just say city, right? If you have WordPress, the title of the page would be /service areas /city. So you use a parent-child page combination, and you choose the parent page of service areas, and then that particular city would be tied to that service areas page. Then what you would do is you would create an original article that's a combination of the type of business that you're working with. Let's say it's a service. Let's say they do home renovations, and they service a 50-mile radius. So you would talk all about the variety of types of home renovations that they do, and it would be an original article, and then maybe at the bottom you'd have a paragraph or two about that actual city. So that's critical. Again, you want to continually drive home the fact that this page is all about this city and this niche, without overdoing it in the sense that you're, stuffing titles or stuffing keywords in there. Write a little short 1 or 2 paragraphs about the city at the bottom of whatever it is they do, home renovation in this case. So that's step 1. Step 2 is, you do your title tag, and you would do city plus main keyword. You could do H1 tags or H2 tags, which would be, I wouldn't repeat the city again because you could get a penalty, an over optimization penalty. What I would do is, in the header tags is put in place other types of things. So if it's, let's say your main tag is home remodeling, maybe it's home renovation, or kitchen remodeling, something like that. And you already have the city in your title tag. We'll talk about phone numbers in just a second. So that's step 1, is you put your article in that also contains a little bit about the city. You're going to title tag the thing with your city and main keywords. You're going to do header tags with other keywords, LSI keywords, that sort of thing. Then what I recommended was go out and get schema marked up for just the city, because obviously we don't in this case have a physical location in the city, but Google will still pick up on the fact that this is about the city by being able to read the structured data markup, the schema markup. So let's say the city is Los Angeles, California. You would go out to a schema generator tool, or and you can watch the video on schema markup. Some people do it by hand. I know Mark does it by hand, and put schema data at the bottom of that page that just has Los Angeles, California as the address, essentially. So you don't have an address, but you have that. Now, if you want to take it one step further, and I would personally, if it was a really important site, I would go out and I would buy a call fire number for every one of those locations, with the proper area code that's, and phone number that's associated with being in that location. So using Los Angeles as an example, let's say Glendale is a city, which it is next to Los Angeles. I would go out and I'd buy a Glendale-based area code and Glendale-based phone number. And inside of my schema markup, I'd put Glendale, California, and the zip code, and my phone number, right? And now what I would do, if I take it that step further and buy a phone number, I would actually put that phone number up in my title tag. So I would have, in the title tag, city plus main keyword plus phone number, just like we're talking about doing on a regular map listing. When you have a single location, putting your phone number in the title tag helps tremendously. So do the same thing on a service location. Buy a phone number, put it in the title tag. So that's the next step. After that, I would go so far as to embed a map of the city onto each page. So if you're in Glendale, California, the map would just be a wide overview of Glendale, California without an actual address. Embed that at the bottom of the page. So the other thing you can do is take your, go back to Picasa and do the exact same thing. Grab a picture and geotag it for Glendale, California. It doesn't have to be specific to the address, just geotag it for Glendale, California. All these things are going to dramatically send signals to Google that each of these pages is in fact one of the service areas that the person services or the business services, and reward you by showing that on maps for multiple locations. So where people get this wrong is they try to do a service area, and they just, they're lucky if they show up on 1 or 2 cities. But in reality, a lot of these service contractors service multiple cities. So you're going to blow their mind if you can go out and rank them in 20 different cities on maps by doing this technique. Now, again, it's untested. I've not personally tested this, but it's taking into consideration everything that we've tested before and doing it in a way that would work with this type of technique. sending all those signals back to Google that are so important. So that's the key. Don't be afraid to test things like this as your business grows. Don't be afraid to come up with innovative solutions as your business grows, and really think things through. But come up with, here's what I know has worked before for a single location. Well, how can I extend that into multiple locations? Have it make sense, not get penalized, that sort of thing. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Please do reach out to myself or Mark in Facebook chat, and if you have questions on any of our upcoming calls, do feel free to ask any question that you have, and we'll be happy to go through that. Talk soon and see you in the next video. Take care.